California seek recognition?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I have a amendment at the desk.
Clerk will report the amendment.
Amendment offered by Mr. Honda of California, page 60, beginning on line 15, strike, and of which none of the funds may be used for grants for immigrant integration.
Gentleman from California is recognized for 5 minutes in support of his amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I thank my colleagues on the other side. Mr. Speaker, our amendment is a straightforward amendment that would remove language in the bill that targets immigrant integration grants. What are immigrant integration grants and why are they important? Every year, immigrant integration grants provide funding to local churches, schools, and community centers across the nation, from Catholic Charities in Dallas to the Ukrainian Community Center of Washington State to West Georgia Technical College to prepare legal permanent residents for citizenship. Let me repeat, Mr. Speaker. These grants are for legal permanent residents or citizens in waiting, like many of our parents and grandparents who came to America not speaking a word of English or knowing the great history and civics of our country. Citizenship instruction through these grants must include U.S. history and government lessons and civics-focused English lessons. We often hear from the other side that immigrants coming to this country should learn English, and they should. These grants provide a way for immigrants to do exactly that. It is perhaps fortuitous, and that is spelled F-O-R-T-U-I-T-O-U-S, fortuitous, that we are debating this amendment as the 2011 Scripps National Spelling Bee begins its annual competition this week. As one goes down the list of the 275 young student spellers, it is worth noting that and pointing out that many of them have parents who are immigrants or are immigrants themselves. 8 of the past 12 champions of the Scripps National Spelling Bee were foreign-born or had parents who were foreign-born. Renowned linguist Ben Zimmer points out the connection between immigrant families and the spelling bee in this week's NPR story. And on the topic, Mr. Zimmer says, tells NPR, these kids are spending sometimes a few hours a day going through word lists to learn the most difficult words in English. Very often, they are youngsters coming from immigrant families that really prize learning English as part of becoming assimilated into American culture. So, my hat's off to all these young spellers. Mr. Speaker, the immigrants who rely on integration grants are often the parents of these success stories. They are the mother at the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society in New York, or the father at the Lutheran Social Service of South Dakota, who after working 2 jobs in a day, still find the energy to make it to a night class where they can learn English and learn about our nation's history and government. The energy that drives these parents is the same energy that drove our immigrant parents and grandparents. The idea that their hard work will give their children a chance to a better life in America. And while English language learner population is often characterized as solely immigrant, the reality is that the native-born, U.S.-born English language learner population nearly doubled between the year 2000 and 2005, and is increasing at a higher rate than the immigrant population. Between 2010 and 2030, these first and second generation immigrants are projected to account for all growth in the U.S. labor force. Better preparing this workforce will unite and strengthen our country. The notion that we as a nation shouldn't fund programs like integration grants flies in the face of what our country is all about. These new Americans are not looking for an easy ride. They're simply looking for the chance to learn English, learn about the history of their new home, learn about the history of their adopted home, their choice of a new home, and integrate into the fabric of America. There should be a direct source of appropriations for immigrant integration grants, which this bill takes away. At the very least, there should not be restrictions on how USCIS can fund these important grants in this bill. So I ask my colleagues to support this straightforward amendment, and I yield back the remainder of my time.